Miles Standish. The reason that we decided to do a podcast was to hopefully inform and educate smaller coin shops on how to open up revenue streams and make more money at doing what we love. So please stay tuned for more episodes on how we can achieve that. Along the way, we'll share some of our successes and we'll also share some of those failures. And hopefully we can teach you not to make the same mistakes that we did. Now, jumping right ahead, I'm going to bring in a guy who has tons and tons of experience. A book that literally I couldn't even, so much numismatic knowledge I can't even fit into an introduction. But from a person, from a friend level, a guy that's always been there for us, a guy that you can talk to, a guy that's like an open book, a veritable cornucopia of information, an amazing person, and a guy that just is fun to be around. His name's Miles Standish. He's our first guest, and I'd like to introduce him today.
Well, first I want to say thank you to the U.S. Coins and Jewelry for welcoming me into the Coin Shop podcast. I'm grateful to be here, and I'm going to enjoy it. My career has been grading numismatic coins for more than 35 years for 3 different grading services. PCSGS for 29 years, NGC for 6 years, ANACS for 2 years out of all those years. But that's been my life, and I think there's a lot of things that we can discuss so that people can learn the experience of someone that's been in the grading room day in and day out for, more than 30 plus years of what's happened in the grading room over the years. And I think I can teach and help a lot of people in that area. And we can bring it to the open dialogue here on the podcast.
Yeah, I would say that most people, most coin dealers, young and old, the grading room is one of the most important rooms of all, right? It's like the hub of numismatics because it's where, some people, it's where coins are made or where they're not. It's either
it's where hearts are made and hearts are broken.
Yeah, right.
And I know that from my position, because I've heard it over the years.
Yeah, right.
Nobody ever complimented a coin grader from a grading service of doing a great job.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
It's kind of like an umpire in baseball. Nobody says, "Oh God, I love the umps."
Yeah, he did a great job today. Well, actually, they're getting better, I think, at giving some of these guys. So we do have this awesome, we've got an awesome show today.
Yeah.
Right. Maddie, what are we going to cover today?
Yeah. So we're going to get into the summer fun. We're also going to get into the store purchase of the week. We'll do a little on counterfeit coins and what to look for. We'll also, get into a bad buy of the week. And
nobody wants to talk about the bad buys.
Yeah, it's I think it's a main purpose of the show.
Yeah.
So we have to definitely get into that, no matter exactly how bad it is. But
I agree.
I think myself, from being an outsider that's visited the coin shop a few times, I don't know how one of the busiest coin shops that I've ever gone into can't have a few bad buys. Yeah. You can't. Success is not made with just success. There's some mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling with all the activity that's gone on, that goes on a daily basis in one of the busiest coin shops in America, U.S. Coins and Jewelry, that you can't have a few bad purchases also on top of it.
Yeah, I can attest that we make some bad buys.
Yeah.
It's nothing that we're proud of.
I always learn from my mistakes.
Yeah.
I just move on from them.
Well, one of the purposes of the podcast, honestly, is that how do we share our failures and how we learn from them, and then some of the successes, and how can we help expand? How can we help our industry expand, and how can we help smaller coin shops who might not have or may not use some of the revenue streams that are available to them because they don't know, maybe they don't have the knowledge, but we can help with that. We're going to follow up with YouTube videos on specific items. We'll also get some feedback, and we're pretty accessible people. I've got a phone number. I answer it pretty much every time that it rings. The 150 text messages I get a day, I try to respond to most of them. So we're very accessible, and we're excited to be here, excited to try to help out in any way we can. Take our foot traffic and our customer experiences and share them with the world. And again, help the consumer try not to make mistakes and make sure that they're selling their goods and get the best value. To me, that's the circle of life, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, it works kind of the same in coin grading. People always ask me, how did you learn how to grade? And one of the skills that taught me the most that you never forget is buying a coin for a price and selling it for a profit. You don't forget that. But better yet, what you never forget is buying a coin for a certain price and selling it for less because it was a mistake.
Yeah.
And those type of impacts in your life on learning life lesson learned are circumstances like that. It's not always about the home run you hit, but it's about get caught stealing basically. And that is you got caught making a mistake.
Yeah.
You got caught yourself.
Right. Yeah, I go through most of the guys' deals that we buy. Matthew and I pretty much split up that responsibility, and we go through the tickets or the invoices, that when we get some time. And man, we make some mistakes, in the heat of the moment, whether it's busy or the traffic is high, or the market changes on you quickly, or maybe the communication from wholesale to retail, the premiums aren't discussed enough, or maybe last week's premium isn't the same as it was today. So we make some small mistakes like that, and but we also make some big mistakes. Matt, what else do you have for us?
Yeah, so we're going to get into the fraud of the week, which is going to be the customer that is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Fraud of the
week.
Are we
calling it fraud of the week?
This is because of technology and the internet that people scam you without having to come to the coin shop.
I like scam of the week.
All right, let's call it
scam of the week.
Yeah, so we're gonna get into the scam of the week.
Yeah,
it's gonna be customers or maybe something that's happened in the store. It's really just more of a something to look for situation if it happens in your store.
Well, the majority of the scams that would happen to U.S. coins would be online, not people that walked in the store.
They happen both, right? So you'll catch people trying to pass off phony product, counterfeit coins, sometimes heavily plated gold or silver. Then there's the money order scam, the fake check scam, one that
kind of the old school scam still exists.
Yeah, one that's really popular that I think we should probably bring to people's attention is the chip reader scam. Yeah. So if someone comes in and you take a credit card inside the store and, the chip reader doesn't work and they say, well, here, can you just swipe it? Don't take the transaction.
It's no bueno.
It's no bueno. Yeah. I have yet to see where that's been a good situation. So that's one word up to the wise, and that's obviously if
not being in the retail business, that's interesting that's how they do it. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And I'd have to kind of go back to the situation and ask. I think it was Nick that we lost a big It was
it a bullion purchase that way?
It was a watch.
Yeah, it was a date just.
It was a date just.
Yeah, date just.
Yeah, a guy came in and used a stolen credit card or did something and swiped it, and we would have been protected if it was the chip, and it wasn't, so we got hosed. That was a $10,000 lesson.
Or even worse, actually having to type in the card number.
Was that what happened?
I think.
That's what happened. No, we didn't swipe it. We typed in the card number. That's what it was.
I remember in the old days you had to call, the teller would call in the 800 number on the back of the card even.
Yeah.
Obviously we've gotten away from that, which is pretty archaic, but
yeah.
So actually, you know what? Why don't I go ahead and do that real quick? I'm gonna share the scam of the week because it was a pretty good one. So we sent out an order to a customer for it was for $21,238, and somewhere between our email system and their email system, the packet was sniffed or the email was fished somehow, and they duplicated our invoice but changed the ABA and routing number. So once their accounting department saw the change in banking, they called our accounting department to verify. Said, hey, FYI guys, did you change? We see you're still in Texas City. but did you guys change your ABA or routing number? We said, no, absolutely not. And come to find out, it was an email that was phished. And I mean, these guys are good. I mean, someone had a bank account. Now we're not
21,000.
20.
They're really good.
Yeah, they were going to hit us for 21K, or not hit us. They were going to hit them for 21K.
For 21,
So, you know, to me, that's a scam. You know, when the phone comes up and says scam likely, scam likely,
right. Yeah.
Right. So, just to jump into it, you know, those are the type of scams you have to look out for, and especially,
and that's the kind of knowledge you're trying to give up here, because you know I'm listening to this, and obviously, like I said, I don't deal with the retail public or credit cards.
Sure.
But to hear that story, it's like really eye opening to everyone.
Yeah. No, you got to be on your toes in this market, and especially, you know, when a couple months ago gold was at, you know, 19 and change, looking like it was going to go to 2,500, and now we sit at 1735, and everyone's kind of sitting on their hands waiting for the next chip to fall. And in these markets is where you've got to start to really, really, really be careful, and you have to really narrow who you do business with, because, you know, as you and I spoke before, it's all about getting liquidity, right? Yeah. And you don't get liquidity until you get paid, right? You know, selling something, and you've heard me say this a lot, selling it is like literally the easiest part to do. The getting paid part, that's the really, really, really tough part. Because once you get, it's not sold until it's paid.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be like that. But
but
with, you know, everyday humans doing being in charge of it, it's hard to, you know, you got to stay on top of it.
Well, what's even scarier is automation too. Is if you know, if it's automated and humans aren't overlooking it, you know, what are you missing? So you have to find that perfect balance. And again, that's one of the reasons why I think this podcast is going to be successful, because I'm willing to, or we're willing to share those inside day-to-day, you know, kind of secrets and things that we pick up on and things that we come across. And we're not scared to put it out there, and we're not scared to educate. We're not scared to inform, and we're not scared to give a little sneak peek on what goes on a day-to-day basis. You know, to me, actually, it's pretty freaking exciting. I mean, I'm stoked.
No, I am too. And you know, one of the main things today that I left off for the end is that we're gonna do numismatic myth busting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Oh, this sounds like it's right up my alley.
Yeah, you've got the best.
I've heard all the myths and thoughts of what goes on, of course, in my line of work.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you take a couple seconds and give us so you started at PCGS, right?
Yeah, I started at PCGS in the fall of 1986. PCGS had started in the springtime, and it wasn't until a few months later I became the first full-time coin grader hired at PCGS, where they had a lot of part-time people. And I convinced management at the time that to become the best of what we could be, you needed a core of people that were always there on a full-time basis. And at first I was kind of looked at as an alien.
Yeah.
Like that didn't make sense.
Right.
But it quickly became the adapted profile of graders, meaning graders were full-time, and it worked. And obviously it built the brand to what it is today. Yeah, you know, 1986 till 2015, you know, I was at PCGS. I was involved in PSA and PSA DNA, the baseball card grading service, and the authentication grading service. It wasn't until the early 90s that I became an owner of PCGS and a shareholder of the company. And then I got more and more involved in the business development, and basically it was because we were hungry at the time and business was off, and I had ideas that I thought could cultivate more submissions at PCGS. And from, you know, show grading to invitationals that got created to the changing of the labels, you know, colored labels on a label other than just a blue or a green PCGS label. Any of the artwork that started to happen was what I started in 1998. And then so on. You see the rest of the world today is all about what a label looks like.
Of course.
And that was the business development that I got involved in. So I was grading and doing that. And, you know, it's what I thrived on because I love marketing. I love packaging. Both grading services, you know, adapted to either colorized labels or imagery that was on the labels. And the reason that I did that was that this thing called the internet was coming on after about 1995. And I said, people are looking at this stuff more online now. They're looking at it on television. And if you have kind of a drab packaging that isn't all that exciting for the consumer, it's not going to sell.
Right.
And I felt like if these coins were going to be listed on websites, you needed colorful images and, national parks and national or state flag quarters, things like that. And then, of course, later, the autograph came about where it was, autograph of someone famous or particularly tied to the coin became important. And, both grading services, I launched it at PCSGS originally around 2001. And then at NGC in 2015, I started doing that there. But it became a reason for people, more and more people around the globe to want to collect coins. And all my original intent was to attract more people to the coin market, not just the existing people, but get more and more people interested in buying numismatic coins that are certified with either a colorful label or an imagery on the label they liked, or with an autograph. I called autographs basically the double play of collectibles, a hand-signed authentic autograph and an authentic coin that was certified. So, I mean, those are some of the backstory reasons why I did that. But, that's what I got going on. And on top of that, I've written 2 best-selling books, one with the chief engraver of the United States Mint, John Mercanti, which is the #1 all-time selling book after the Red Book. And then, the Morgan Dollar Love Affair, which is one that had been my lifelong dream of doing that first, but it ended up being my second book that I did because I love Morgan dollars. And so that book came about too, and it's been a bestseller. Both published through Whitman. But there's just that's all the stuff in the past. There's a lot of things I'm, working on now that I'm doing in the future, that I plan to do in the future, and keep going and accentuate reasons for people to want to collect and own coins. And that's really how I eat, sleep numismatics, and that is figuring out how to make it more interesting for new people to come to us.
Right. Yeah. No, it's awesome. Yeah.
So when you met John Mercanti, how was that? How was it meeting him?
Well, John had been told about me.
Yeah. And
we hadn't talked. And I remember going to a coin show in Philadelphia, and John would probably tell this story identical because he's written it down before, and it's written in the book about how we got introduced. But it's one of those things where, you come around a corner and the next person you see makes you smile, and you look at him, and I'm looking at John Mercanti and he's looking at me, and he points his finger at me, he goes, "You're Miles Standish." And that's how we got introduced at a Philadelphia coin show back in, I think it was around 2009, 2008. Yeah. And it wasn't too long after that I convinced John to retire from the United States Mint to sign autographs. Yeah. And he did that for me at PCSGS. John wanted to write a book on his history. And I told John, I said, "John, I want to be your good friend for a long time." I said, "John, your story is really great. I think we can include it in another book, but in the other book, we'll sell lots of copies. It's a hard book to sell your story as just your story, but we can include it with all the coins you designed." Yeah. And he liked that a lot.
Yeah.
But it was, he had an idea, and like I always say, great ideas morph into better ideas. And I think John's story is really compelling and interesting, but when you pick the subject like Silver Eagles that he had so much to do with the design of the reverse of the coin on the Type 1s, from 1986 to 2021, I thought there was a great story to tell there of his time at the Mint over 40 years. I'm always proud of the fact that I convinced him to retire, but I didn't ask him to retire. I asked his wife. I told his wife that I was going to make him highly successful and he'd have a lot of fun and he wouldn't have a boss anymore. And it worked. So I went through his wife to get him.
Nice.
And it worked. And, of course, now we're in our 4th edition of the Silver Eagle book. It's 10 plus years later and we've had 4th editions and, they keep selling out.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, and it's actually it's a great book, great design. Something that
over 600 million coins have been made.
Yeah.
600 million.
Yeah.
you know, and none of them have been destroyed. And the Mint distributes more of them every Monday morning.
Yeah.
Continually since 1986. I mean, it's, you know, it's kind of like, you know, Krispy Kreme donuts, you know, they just keep running on the tracks.
Yeah.
And everybody wants them hot and they want them now.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same idea. And the Mint, you know, has a fabulous program that they just need to accentuate and keep it going.
Right. No, that's awesome. Matt, you bought a cool coin this week. Why don't you tell us about one of your cool purchases? You know, one of the segments that I like on this show is kind of coin of the week, or, you know, item of the week. We buy a range of things in this coin shop, you know, on a weekly basis. But I thought this coin definitely made item of the week or coin of the week. You want to go over it a little bit?
Yeah. So bought an 1895 proof Morgan dollar in XF45.
The king of the Morgan dollar set.
The king
that's
with a
right.
mintage of 880 coins. This XF45 is one of the truest 45s that I've ever seen.
All right. You can give a little glimpse, and then we'll get a better glimpse for the website. You're a little too... Okay. Yeah, I'm sure we can get that post-production
I couldn't get
done, but yeah,
You know what's great about that coin? What's great about
put
that?
It down. Put it down.
What's really great about that coin in XF45, you know, everybody, you know, I've handled all the best ones. You know, the 67s, the 68s, the 65s. I've handled all the best ones. But there are collectors out there that are building a XF or an AU set of Morgan dollars, and that's the coin they really desire. And out of 880 coins, it's not like there's 45s all over the place.
No.
You know, there's just not.
Even for a coin that doesn't have that big of a spread, you know, between a 67 deep cam and a, you know, and a 45. I mean, I mean, 100 grand or so is a significant spread. But when you're talking about, like you said, you've got guys who are building search sets of dollars.
He needs that coin.
Yeah, he needs that coin.
He thinks that's the holy grail, because
right.
not just because of the date that it is, but the grade that it is.
And the coin too. Also, I mean, it's not washed out. It's a true 45. Like we spoke before, it's not trying to be 50. It's not.
It's just right.
It's perfectly.
And quite honestly, there's no reason to ever try to do anything other with, because it really doesn't change the value still much. I mean, it just is what it is.
No. No, it's actually a true coin, and when I saw it, I was shocked, because a lot of the coins, when they come circ, I mean, because they're proofs, you know, so circ proofs, you know, tend to kind of be scrubbed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of have
a little washy or spotted.
That's one of the nicer circulated proof 95s that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a nice,
you know, where it's not been messed with.
Right.
You know, somebody didn't put it with a loincloth and start polishing it. I mean, it's truly circulated.
Yeah.
It's a truly
it's a nice coin.
That slid across a bar counter a few times.
Yeah, and then finally somebody wised up and said, "Wait a minute, that might be a little bit different than the rest."
It's special. It's special.
Yeah, that coin will be available on our website here coming up soon.
The king of the Morgan dollars, that 1895 proof Morgan dollar and XF45.
No doubt. Yeah. Nice true grade, nice cool coin, cool history, like you said. Mintage of 880. It's, if you're going to build a dollar set and complete a dollar set, you got to have it, unless you're doing a mint state set only. But, you know, obviously to complete the real deal Holyfield, you're going to need that coin. So I think that was a good choice that you made there. I've got a couple questions for you. Just, you know, even when I was young in the business, the grading aspect of the rare coin business was always like a, you know, it's so nuanced, and I think sometimes even myself, I would catch myself kind of overthinking grading. You know, I catch myself overthinking it, like, you know, asking myself, like, you know, do the graders know what packages are they grading? Do they know what companies they're grading? So I want to go over a couple Mythbusters with you.
Sounds good.
Right? So that we can
Mythbusters.
Yeah, Mythbusters. So we can
That's
actually
Mythbusters.
we can actually, you know, put some of these rumors to bed and get some real answers. Because
Absolutely.
I think it's important, because even I get emails, you know, or smaller coin shops locally, like, oh, I want to send my coin in through you because you guys send in more coins and you probably get better grades. I'm like, that's not how it works. they're like, you know, come on, you know, we're cool, we're buddies, man, we're
Yeah.
good. You know, I'm like, that's not how it works.
No,
They're like, oh, but Kenny, I knew your dad. I knew your dad for 30 years, you know, and just, you know, it's all good. I'm like, that's not how it works.
Well, you know, people have this idea that, you know, that the graders have an idea whose coins they're grading. Now, I'm going to tell you that, you know, an individual, usually, you know, $1 million coin or $10 million coin, you know, people forever get an idea just because it's in the media of who's owned those coins.
Right.
But generally speaking, when a grading room roughly today, for really both services, you know, there's 75,000 coins a week. That's 50 to 75,000 coins a week that go through the grading room.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to know. And, you know, the way the process works, there's a grading room manager. Each individual box is doled out to the graders. Graders don't get to select boxes, you know, based on what's in the box.
Yeah.
You know, some days, you know, you get lucky and, you get $300 Morgan dollars in a row to grade. And some days you get, you know, 300 3-cent silvers that feel like 900 coins, you know, by the time you're done with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know, it's like who did I upset? You know, why did I get all these? But you know, you can't pick and choose. The graders can't pick and choose of what they get to grade.
Right.
You know, there's all kinds of jobs in the world. People like to pick the easy way out. And, you know, over the years, you know, there's people that tried to pick the easy way out in this subject. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why a grading room manager was developed so that person would handle basically flow through the system and got things out in an orderly fashion. Because once you start having, you know, people picking left and right what they want to grade.
Then you got seniority.
Yeah. You know, it's what happens
Picks over another.
Yeah. And what also happens too is that, you know, things take longer to get through the grading process because people play and pick and choose. So the grading room manager doles the coins out. You know, for me, it was real easy because I always graded twice as many coins as anybody else in a room. So it didn't matter what was in front of me. They just kept me full. You know, it was kind of like, you know, what was the Cookie Monster's name on Sesame Street? You know, it's just like, you know, keep feeding me more.
Yeah.
Just put more on my shelf above, you know, me and my computer that I'm inputting the grades into, and, you know, keep feeding me coins to grade, you know, because that's what I was about.
why you're there.
You know, I was there to grade lots of coins because one, I like coins. Coin grading was exceptionally easy for me, and so the way I didn't get bored with is I graded a lot.
Yeah. What's the coolest coin? Well, I won't strap you down to one coin, but, you know, give me a couple of the coolest coins that you've graded.
You know, I think I have like proud moments. I mean, it's easy for me to talk about, you know, America's first silver dollar that sold for $12 million. Okay, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think probably that I got some goosebump moments, which I think is a real genuine feeling, you know, of, you know, getting to handle the first 5,000 gold coins from the SS Central America. I felt that as an honor.
Yeah.
Okay. I felt like that was like, you know, I'm pretty privileged.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've been to the Smithsonian and looked at coins that'll never go to the grading services. And, I'm there with a former U.S. Mint director. So I've had opportunities to go to some places around the globe where there's coins that haven't been to the grading services yet that I've been able to go look at. I think probably one of the most fascinating stories, it was the Child's 1804 dollar. That's a 68.
Wow.
Okay. You know, that coin was coming up for auction. I believe it was, I'm going to say 1997, 98. It was going to come up for auction. And it didn't even come to the grading service. I had to fly to the location where it was being housed. And myself and another grader, an operations guy, and we went there and graded one coin and sealed one coin.
Wow.
And I was on Lake Winnipesaukee.
Wow.
In New Hampshire.
That's cool.
And it was I remember it was on 4th of July, and I got up and went and graded this coin, and the next thing I know, I was on a boat for a boat ride, and, you know, a day full of steaks and lobster and goofing off on Lake Winnipesaukee. If you remember, Lake Winnipesaukee was in the movie What About Bob with
yeah, of course,
with Bill Murray. It's a famous movie that Bill Murray did back in the 90s. if I think it was the 90s. But, you know, that was kind of a unique situation. But, you know, I've been to global vaults around the world that, you know, I've been selected to go look at things to give folks an idea of what they have. So it hasn't always just happened in the grading room. But the number of, you know, just sitting there grading people's coins, you know, that really isn't the case.
Yeah.
But I also give that caveat, like, you know, famous coins. Yeah. Okay. Some people know.
You know
but
who owns them, right?
But, you know, a lot of famous $1 million coins, you know, ultimately, you know, the certification's nice, but it's not ultimately important.
Right.
But the consumer wants it graded. They want it in a holder.
Yeah.
But, you know, the outcome of grade isn't going to be changing anything because it is what it is.
The coin stands on its own.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, you know, back at that time, I don't know, I think the child's coin sold for, I don't know, 3.5 million. You know, it was a 68, but it would have sold at that anyway, regardless. And it would have been certified after the auction. But in that case, they wanted it certified before the auction. But,
Right.
you know, there's a lot of big coins like that that have been interesting. Again, the Central America was an honor. You know, I've assembled some coin collections for, you know, past presidents of the United States, for their family members, you know, picking out coins for them that, you know, that they would like to have for long term. You know, I consider that an honor. But you know, the room in the grading room is, you know, it's an interesting cast of characters over the years. I've probably worked with about 300 coin graders over the years.
Really?
Some that were test graders, and some that didn't pass, and a lot that didn't pass the test. Yeah. Ultimately,
right?
You
So
know.
we're calling it a
Takes
myth.
it.
Is it myth?
What?
Oh, what you were asking.
Well, he
But-
said it's a myth. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a myth. I mean, it's a myth. Like, you know, so like if
I think we should talk about how difficult it is to do the job, because I know some guys that are like really qualified.
Okay.
You know, I'll just use, let's just say, you know, I think everything about you quality wise, looking at a coin, you know, but I know you can't sit there every day, 8 hours a day, 40 hours, 50 hours a week, and that's your job focus for 25 years.
Right.
You know, not picking on you, but I'm just using it as an example. You know, there's so many people that have come through the grading room, because I said, you know, there's been a lot of test graders over the years at the grading service didn't have a shot.
Really?
Okay. But, you know, because of the need for quality people that know how to grade, we tested a lot of people over the years.
Right.
But I was thinking about a grader that was very talented, knew how to grade, but the way his personality was, he couldn't sit in the seat. You know, his production was low, and he just couldn't keep. It's a focus job.
Couldn't stay focused.
It's a pure focus job, and you have to be able to get into a zone to be able to do it day in and day out. You know, no difference than, you know, a Major League Baseball player who preps every day before the game with, you know, his drills, his workouts, his batting practice. And, you know, if you ever go to a baseball game, they do that every day.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, batting practice has to get old unless you're just purely focused on doing that.
I can speak for myself. It takes me sometimes 2 weeks to sit down and set up 4 boxes of coins for grading.
Yeah.
Because
you got 9 things you're doing.
Yeah, well, and I've got to be in the right mood,
yeah.
Right? And then I've got to make sure that, you know, the phones aren't going to be ringing, and I need the right light, yeah. And I need to be uninterrupted, right? So
and think about a coin grader that grades 1,000 coins a day.
Yeah.
No, and I may have been doing 1,500, 1,800, 2,500 coins a day. You know what? I figured out how to get focused at it. Yeah. But a lot of guys, even talented guys, it's really hard for them to do.
Really?
Yeah. And I always relished it. I always I really dug it. I mean, It was really just that part of my work, other than business development, was really a great niche for me.
I can remember even, you know, 15 years ago on the bourse floors, every time I saw you, you always had a smile on your face. You know, you always walked around with a smile on your face.
Yeah, I was happy what I was doing, you know.
You'll always
and I like people, so that was easy for me to go out and communicate with, you know, collectors or dealers.
Yeah. No, so we didn't narrow it down to the coolest coin. Let me ask you this. Let's go another direction. Packages, okay, and tiers. You know, the kind of pay to play type thing. You know, so let's just say, well, here, let's.
You want to talk about a box of coins? how to set yourself up for success or how to set yourself up for failure.
Well, I was gonna say,
when you're a dealer, or a submitter.
How about this? How about from anybody? What kills a package?
Oh God, I can tell you. This is really, this is fodder from the grading room.
Okay.
Because believe it or not, the coin graders do communicate with each other.
Yeah.
And somebody could say, "Oh, hey Sam, I got this box over here that you were just on," and he says, "Is that the one with the antietam?" I go, "Yeah, that one." And it's this grossly abusively looking, artificially toned antietam that has no natural qualities about it. Okay, now what's that do to a personality? It sets you off.
Yeah,
it sets you off. It sets you off negatively. It's like, okay, what's the rest of this box going to look like? Well, this customer who submitted those coins, even if he doesn't know that coin's artificially toned, he doesn't know that he just set himself up for failure.
Yeah.
Because
now the loops are coming out.
We're talking human nature here.
Right.
Every coin is graded independently.
Yeah.
But when you start sending in things that are just problematic,
yeah.
problem coins guarantee you low success.
Yeah.
Filed rims, tooling marks on the coin. Somebody went in and they probably wanted to tool a spot off. That's a no grade. A filed rim, that's a no grade. Artificial toning, that's a no grade. But that box might have 12 coins in it. And there might be, a 1900 bus quarter that's frosty and white and gorgeous. Believe me, it's really hard to get excited about that box or that particular coin.
Right.
And guess what? The outcome might be each grader that gets to that coin. Let's say the coin is like a 66 plus. The rest of the coins in that box might inhibit that coin from getting to a 66 plus even, or maybe it's a shot 67. It gets held down by the quality of the coins you put it with. And so, the best thing you can ever do is never send the grading service problem coins. If you know it's got filed rims, if you know it's artificially toned, do yourself a favor.
Sell it and move on. Yeah.
That's,
sell it and
move on. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, that's, I'm very emotional about that, very expressive about that, because it's like, because believe me, the graders are sitting there saying, doesn't this guy get it?
Yeah.
Doesn't he understand he's only hurting himself?
Yeah.
And they should be selecting coins that warrant to be graded, the maximum possible grade.
Yeah. A bad deal was a bad deal when it's bought. It's a bad deal when it was sold.
And people can be critical that, each, they're paying for the coins to get rated. Well, yeah, but you can't take out the human nature of it. The human nature of it is, if I'm already having a bad experience going through this box, I'm just worried I'm missing something on the nice coin.
Right.
And that, that's the emotion of grading that, I always try to do my best to max out a coin. I didn't need to see something twice. But I like the idea of maxing a coin out, and the customer deserves that. Anybody can undergrade a coin, anybody can overgrade a coin, but grading a coin right is really important. And, that's really the goal of the job. But
right.
You don't want to make it hard on the grading service.
Right.
Or the graders.
Right. Yeah, you got to make it easy.
Yeah.
Send in fresh coins, keep them together, and make.
Maybe you're not going to catch the plus you should have. That should have, but if you got the grade, I consider that a win. But maybe you got a plus on something else that you thought should have plus, but it got it. But
Right. So, yeah, destroying packages. Yeah, I can imagine, sending in a problem coin, and then all of a sudden it's like, you got one loop out and you're like, okay, let me pull all my loops out. I'm going to check everything. I'm looking for spots removed. Now I'm looking for any wipes or wheel marks. I'm looking for everything now. This has got to be a package
And I'll tell you, for 95% of my career, I graded everything without a loop. Why do you want me to bring it out? Why do you want me to have to look at a corner or something,
Yep.
A little bit closer,
Exactly.
because I was what was called a naked eye grader. And that is, I felt very confident with my vision. I was always 20/10. And I felt like, I could, I basically still do the same thing today. I don't grade with a loop. I do authentication with a loop, or I look at a tool mark or a rim a little closer with a loop, but I don't grade with a loop.
Listen, if I graded with a loop, I'd never send one coin in.
There was a dealer that, very active dealer, and he was always very critical. And I
Critical of grading or critical of?
critical of all of our work.
Okay.
Just very critical on it.
Okay.
And then he'd tell me how, he bought a coin and it had this problem or that problem. And I said, what kind of loop are you using? It was like, you're destroying these nice coins because he says, well, it's a 20 power. I said, throw the thing away. I said, you're the only individual on the planet that grades with a 20 power.
Yeah.
I said, if you need more than 5 power, you probably need new glasses.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But 5 power magnification is all you need to properly grade a coin. But if you use more than that, you got to get retrained.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, counterfeit detection, if you're looking for an altered D or an added D or an added S, if you're looking for a certain, die gouge or die cut or die impression.
Or a VAM variety or something,
Yeah,
you use
different.
magnification. But
Right.
grading is done naked eye. Most people don't realize that. They grab the loop first and it's like, wait a second. Once you rotate the coin in the light first and look at it without any kind of magnification,
Yeah.
then if you think you need to look at something closer, then pull the loop out. But don't look at the coin first with a loop.
Yeah.
And then you're doing it backwards.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That's not how I grade coins.
Yeah.
7 coin package or 20 coin package?
It really doesn't matter.
No.
I'll tell you 19 was probably the smart one because it fit in the boxes nicer.
Right.
And the boxes that got transferred around.
Right.
But yeah, no, the number of the coins, I think 20 or less is best. And the way they go through the grading room, they call them an AB box. And that means there's 64 different coins or some odd number, crazy number.
Yeah.
That's too long.
Yeah.
But 5 to 20 is the best.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. But there are people that do A, B, C, D. I've done silver dollar deals like that way over the years, but you really want to do, maximum 20.
Without putting you under the gun.
I thought I already was. I'm divulging stuff I've never had to tell before.
Okay.
But you offered lunch.
I did. And dessert.
I drove 2.5 hours to get lunch.
Okay. So give me some differences in PCGS and NGC as far as grading room. How are the setups? Are the setups, the same?
Yeah, the setups, the lighting is the same. Each individual light is at, the workstation for the grader. Over the years, they eliminated phones at the desk, mostly because of cell phones came into play. Still a computer program where you input the coins, or you put the invoice number in, and then each line item that you're grading in the box comes up. I would say the PCGS grading room is a little bit different than NGC, just because they put all the graders in one room at NGC, and there's a little segregation at PCGS.
Right.
You've got some world people that are in a section. You got bulk people. You got regular line or U.S. coin grading in another. But primarily the bulk area, which is one of the biggest growing areas of the last 20 years, it's usually its own space where it's all combined in one place at NGC.
Yeah. And that's something
it's kind of like, people always think is, what's behind the wizard's curtain,
Yeah, that's kind of, I thought that's something you always did really well too, was making yourself available. I didn't notice it much at PCGS. I wasn't as active in the business, but when you were at NGC, I noticed, the bulk program, and you were really, really trying and making huge efforts to get bulk submissions in NGC, because it makes sense. You've got.
Yeah, that is an idea that morphed from another idea. This was back in the early 90s, about 1991, just a couple of weeks after Matt was born. Matt, what I was thinking was, we had these, grading rates were a lot higher at the time, back in 1990s, compared to what they are today, depending on the coin. Yeah. But I was going to come up with a way to be able to grade all the 62 and 63 Morgan dollars that were left over back in the days when Morgan rolls were popular. And I was going to come up with a 20 coin slab and charge one fee. And that was how, like I said, this is an idea, not so good a one.
Right.
Turned into a better one.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And I think you know where I'm going, what happened.
Right.
Well, and I worked with a mentor of mine that I showed him the numbers of it and how it worked financially for the business. And ultimately what we really figured out was bulk grading. Yeah. And that is, how can you grade, 63, 64, 65, 66 Morgan dollars in quantity at less money,
right,
and make it work for the system. And, it's basically the system that's still in place today that, okay, well, I'm only going to charge this much for threes, this much for five or fours, and this much for fives, and this much for sixes. And it pencils out. It's a good business model. And that's when I started the whole bulk grading back in 1991. Started with vintage coins and then moved into modern coins.
Any advice you can give somebody in submitting let's just say a fresh silver dollar package, or a pick out silver dollar package? I mean, I'd
say, ultimately, the best way you can prepare the coins, listen to the grading service and have them, they'll give you an idea how they want them sent to them. And they're both going to tell you, send them in rolls, don't send them in flips. It's kind of annoying to, people still send them in flips, and you got to break them down and put them in rolls.
Right. So,
listen to the grading services advice and how they want them presented to them. I would tell you that on Morgan dollars, because there's so many coins, as you know, so many varieties of things come across the counter at a coin shop. Some are ugly tones, some are dirty. Prepare the coins, obviously with some preservation in mind of protecting the grade, but there might be a little bit of jewel luster needed for a few pieces just to get them cleaned up and get some of the grime off, or a little curation prior to going to the grading never hurts.
I think a lot of people have a misconception, the difference between doctoring a coin and conservation.
Yeah, and that's why they have two different names.
And it's funny because a lot of people say, well, there's a really fine line. I'm saying, not really.
Well, doctoring is truly to mislead the grading service.
There you go. Yeah, you're eating.
If you have an $85 that, it's just a date, or $83 that just comes a little dirty, or it's been stored in somebody's sock drawer for, 40 years, or grandma's collection. Yeah. There's some things that need some preservation, and they need some, a
little TLC.
Yeah, a little TLC, and all the processes.
Yeah,
little liquid soap, little jewel luster, little MS-70, whatever it is, those are things before you ever try those that you maybe want to practice them on some really cheap coins.
Of course.
So I want to let the listeners know that, there's a way to do it and a way not to do it.
Yeah, here's one tip. Once you burn a coin with dip, it cannot be fixed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when you do the crime, you're going to pay the price, right?
There's no coming back from that.
It's kind of like getting a haircut. You can get a little bit cut off, you're fine. But if you cut off too much, you just have to wait for it to. It's over. Yeah. It's done. You can't fix it. You got to wait for it to grow back. But with coins, they don't grow back.
No, that's hilarious. I felt like I overthought grading for so long, and then when it boiled down to me was fresh coins, nice coins. They in markets, up markets, down markets, they always sell. I feel like when I send in fresh coins and wholesome coins, they get the grade that they deserve, and you don't try to get slick, or you don't try to get fancy, or
nobody ever wanted to undergrade. Nobody ever wants to undergrade a beautiful coin.
Right.
There's no reason not to.
Right.
Yeah. You want to grade, you want to grade the coin right, but you don't, it's just as much of a sin to undergrade a coin it is to overgrade a coin. Right. Because the customer deserves the coin to be graded right and accurately as possible. But really, like I said, it's just as bad to undergrade a coin as to overgrade a coin. And the grading services, the intent of the grading services was to rein in the overgrading. So that's why there's always been this a little bit of approach. You probably feel that way as dealers, that the little bit of it is that, the grading services undergrade my coins. Well, you have to understand, why was it set up originally? It comes from that's the culture it was from, and that it was to protect the consumer to get an accurately graded coin.
Right.
And that's why that is that way.
Right.
It isn't because the grader's sitting there saying, what can I do to nail this guy and have him have bad success and,
right.
Have less money, and so he can live in a smaller house and not pay his rent or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, the reason that the perception is the grading services undergrade your coins is because it was set up to protect the public from overgraded coins.
Yeah, but I'll be honest too, as a dealer, I've seen packages where, And you're right. And like you said in the beginning, you're never getting a phone call saying, hey, guys, you graded the shit out of this package. Thank you so much. You know, you guys did an amazing job. It's always the upset, like, hey, you know, every coin was a half point downgrade, or what are you guys looking at? Or you guys, did y'all go out last night, or did y'all?
Our biggest problem when you're grading coins is that information you just gave there. I call it a professional embarrassment. When let's say it's a 10 coin package, and let's say it's you that submitted, Matt, and you cracked 7 coins out, and they went down from what they were previously graded by the same grading service you're submitting to. Professional embarrassment. Yeah. It's a shame. I'm not saying it. You always want to be better. You don't want that to happen. It's gonna happen, but you don't want to, and you hate seeing it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
at least that's how I played the game. Yeah. That I wouldn't want that to be that guy. Now, you know what? When you've got a coin that's in a 5 holder that the grading service is 4, consistently, and you think it's a 6, after a while, I think you're probably going to be convinced that, it's probably only a 4 or a 5. It's not the thick 6 I would hope it to be.
Yeah. It's a 5.
I think
and you guys know the score better than the grading services, the previous score of that coin. I've always said that. And because I know a number of guys that are large submitters over the years, I've always said, you guys have a better idea what the score is better than we do. And there's been some attempts to pare that down a little bit so we had more information.
All right, so here's a myth. Here's a fact or myth. Do computers grade coins in the grading rooms?
No.
Okay.
And I'm probably the only person still in the business that was involved in the idea of computer grading back from the 1980s.
Yeah.
Much more possible today than it was then.
Yeah.
And it would be done differently today than how we approached it in the 80s.
Yeah. I've gotten some packages back that were pretty weird, I won't lie to you, but
as far as consistency,
yeah, and then a downgrade consistency, and then an upgrade consistency with the same coins, and one starts to think, wait a minute, either this is just a 1 out of a billion happenstance, or there's got to be a computer grading coins, right? Yeah. So that's a question that I've always actually wanted to ask you in private, but hey, why not ask it on the podcast?
Yeah, I personally,
sorry if I put you under the gun.
No. I mean, I love the idea of computer grading to a certain degree. It's the idea that was had for it in the 80s. It's opposite of what would work today.
Right.
And what would work in the 80s was thought to be Morgan dollars, because that was the biggest part of the marketplace on the submissions. The problem is the technology wasn't there to be able to do it consistently in a large volume.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I am saying it was possible.
Right.
That you could get the machine to grade the coins.
Right.
But the technology hadn't gone far enough ahead for it to do it fast and easy. Now today, to me, the whole technology has changed incredibly.
Yeah.
And to me, there's only one coin that you could use to do it. Really consistency, guaranteed volume. Silver Eagles.
Yeah, Silver Eagles. Yeah, modern.
Silver Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's various modern coins that are a large volume item.
Right.
But it isn't like, but back then it was vintage coins. And it's like, well, there's no reason for it.
Yeah. As I've gotten older on the vintage side of things, I've done a lot less grading, and I'm more of an eye appeal guy now. Mm-hmm. I've got probably 7 or 8 boxes in my safe now, down in my little cubby hole, that if it's got a nice eye appeal, I just put it back, because that's what I prefer.
Or place it with customers.
Or place it, or
some of our good customers that come by the store every week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, they'll come in and we'll sit
down. Does that make you more of a investor than a collector? A business investor.
Well, no, I think what it does is I think it's a procurement for our better customers. So when they do come in, because everything we sell with a buyback. So any coin I sell in my shop, I give a 10% buyback on. Now, some, if it's a bullion related item or, something, there's like very few coins that wouldn't fit that 10% buyback rule. But in most cases and on every CAC coin, we give a 10% buyback on for 1 year. No questions asked. So it's coins like that I'll pull out of my box that I'll sell to somebody who hopefully I hope they make money. I hope they keep it for a long time, and I hope it's a good investment for them. But if something happens and they find themselves on some financial hardship and they have to sell it back, well then they can get 90% of its value back from me without a question. I'll stroke them a check that day, no questions asked. And that's something we've built some pretty cool customers on, because what other hobby can you get into? Listen, I'm in all kinds of hobbies right now.
Don't think I've ever heard about it in the baseball card or the comic industry.
Guaranteed not in the baseball
or the diamond industry.
No. Miles, I want to thank you for being our first guest. It was an absolute amazing show. I hope that the listeners got as much entertainment out of it as I did. Listeners, I want to thank you very much for tuning in. It's an absolute pleasure. I hope that we can continue to get better and to bring you better content along the way. Next week, we're going to go Coin Shop 101, where we go over the very basics of the coin shop and hopefully help some of you guys retain some of the customer foot traffic that you've got coming in. And if you're lacking on some